Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really diving deep, taking a pretty radical look at human connection.
We are. We're going into some source material that seriously challenges how we think about love, gender, even intimacy itself.
It's arguing quite provocatively that maybe the foundations we've built our relationships on are, well, poisoned.
They really are. And it starts by questioning our reliance on pure logic, on rationalism.
How so?
Well, the sources bring up thinkers like Einstein. The deeper someone like him went into physics, into existence, the more they found that human logic just didn't hold up anymore. You can't force existence into neat little boxes, you know?
Right. Logic has to bend to reality, not the other way around.
Exactly. The deeper you go, things get more mysterious. You have to sort of listen to nature, move towards an understanding that maybe words can't fully capture.
Okay, so if we accept that we need to look beyond our usual logical frameworks, how does that apply to, say, gender?
Well, that's the first big shift. The source is very clear. This isn't primarily about biological men and women.
Okay, important distinction. So what is it about?
It's about psychological types. The man type and the woman type as like internal energies.
So you could be a biological man but have more woman-type energy.
Absolutely. Or vice versa.
Yeah.
Think of biological men who are incredibly intuitive, maybe more centered than many women.
Yeah.
It's about our inner consciousness, not just our bodies.
Interesting. And the source links these types to the brain.
It does. Quite beautifully, actually. It connects them to the two hemispheres.
Okay, break that down for us.
So the left hemisphere that's associated with the man-type energy.
That's the logical side.
Right. Reason, calculation, efficiency, logic. It's focused on things, power, status, work. The Force calls it the worldly brain.
Or the householder orientation.
Precisely. Always doing, always acquiring. Very outward focus.
Okay, and the right hemisphere?
That's the woman-type energy. Intuition, grace, even illogic sometimes. Emotions, feelings.
More inward-looking.
Yes, focused on the inner being, on peace. This is what the Source calls the Sannyasin orientation.
Sannyasin. Let's clarify that term.
In this context, a Sannyasin is someone seeking inner peace, someone who's sort of renounced that intense focus on the external world.
So prioritizing being over doing.
Exactly. And the Source argues the real conflict isn't men versus women out there, but the battle inside each of us, between these two halves.
The inner householder clashing with the inner seeker, the sannyasin.
You got it, that internal fight.
And there's even a physical parallel, something about schizophrenia.
Yeah, the Source mentions that if the connection, the bridge between the two hemispheres actually breaks down, that's when you see things like split personality or schizophrenia.
Wow, so the goal isn't separation, but integration.
Integration is key, strengthening that bridge. That leads to what's called the crystallization of being.
The meeting of yin and yang within, logic and intuition working together.
That's the idea. The two energies stop fighting and become one whole.
There is that analogy. Science is male energy.
Right, because science is often about that effort to understand, to analyze, even to conquer nature.
That analytical left brain approach.
Yes. And then religiousness, true spiritual seeking, not dogma, is seen as female energy.
How so?
Because it's about dissolving into nature, surrendering, accepting. It's non-resistance, allowing rather than mastering.
Okay, so it have this internal tension. How does it spill out into society, into our relationships? The Source points a finger directly at marriage.
Oh, it does. It calls marriage, and this is a quote, the ugliest institution invented by man.
That is incredibly strong language. Why such a harsh critique?
Well, it's attacking the traditional function of marriage, not love itself, but marriage as a system of ownership.
Ownership?
Yeah, designed to monopolize another person, treat them like property, like a piece of land or some currency notes, as the Source puts it.
Wow, but hold on, wasn't there a historical context? Didn't it offer some protection, especially for women, economically or physically?
The Source acknowledges it might have arisen from fear and imbalance, yes.
Yeah.
But argues that the result of treating someone as property, as a possession,
What's the result?
is immediate jealousy, possessiveness, which eventually just breeds resentment and hatred. It ends up, tragically, with partners becoming like skeletons touching each other.
Meaning the intimacy is just duty, obligation.
Exactly. Performed out of duty, not love, with all this unspoken hate building up over years.
And the Source claims the origin of this imbalance was purely physical.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah.
Man's supposed superiority came down to brute muscle power, which is just part of animality. Nothing evolved about it.
And this was used to exploit women.
Especially during pregnancy and childbirth, her periods of vulnerability. For centuries, women were basically reduced to secondary citizens, treated like a factory to produce crowds. Constant pregnancy was described as the root of her slavery.
That critique then extends right into sexuality, doesn't it? Highlighting a big difference.
A huge difference. The source talks about the man's physiology, the single localized orgasm, versus the woman's potential, which it calls infinitely superior.
Meaning multiple orgasms, total body experience.
Yes, and modern research backs this up, focusing on the clitoris, not the outdated idea of a purely vaginal orgasm. It's a whole body potential.
So if there's this mismatch, the man potentially unable to fully satisfy the woman's capacity, what happens?
Well, the source suggests the man often tries to ignore or downplay the reality of female multiple orgasms precisely because he feels inadequate.
So lovemaking becomes rushed, unfulfilling.
Often, yeah. It stops being about mutual pleasure and becomes either just a duty or even a kind of bribe to keep the peace. A transaction, basically.
Basically, not an art.
Definitely not an art, and that's the call to transform it back into an art.
How do you move past biology and cultural habit?
By making it sacred, conscious, like a meditation.
What does that look like practically?
Creating a space for it, a love temple, the source calls it, maybe incense, music, and crucially, prioritizing foreplay. Hours of it, the source suggests.
Flowers.
Really?
To bring both partners into a deeply relaxed, connected state, and also rethinking positions, specifically avoiding the missionary position. The classic missionary position, why avoid that one?
Because it's seen as inherently political. The heavier person, usually the man, is on top, controlling the pace, crushing the more delicate partner below.
Right.
It allows for quick male satisfaction.
So suggesting positions where the woman has more control. Or side by side.
Exactly. Where she can set the pace, where there's more equality, more slowness, more mutual comfort.
And if partners manage this synchronization, this dedication, what's the peak experience described?
It's described as touching the other world. This shared, deep orgasmic release is seen as a glimpse of samadhi.
Samadhi. We should probably define that.
Right. Samadhi is a state in deep meditation where the thinking mind just stops. Completely stops. Time disappears. You're just purely present.
So the ultimate orgasm is like a natural taste of that meditative state.
That's the idea. Biology giving us a hint of transcendence. Proof that our bodies are wired for more than just making babies. They're wired for ecstasy.
This leads us nicely into the idea of freedom then, moving away from these older, maybe fearful systems.
Yes. If the old ways are poisoned by politics and possession, the path forward has to start from within.
And the source is quite blunt. You're not just born a great lover.
No, it says love is the greatest art there is. It takes practice, effort, training, like learning to dance, but you're dancing with another person, with life itself.
It helps distinguish different levels of connection too, right?
Definitely. There's acquaintance, just the edges meeting. That includes, casual sex, just bodies meeting, peripheral.
Okay. And then love?
Love is when the centers meet. But true love, the source argues, can only happen when there's no fear, when the ego is dropped completely.
Which brings us to that crucial distinction, loneliness versus aloneness. Most relationships, it's claimed, are escapes.
Escapes from loneliness, yeah. Loneliness is described as this awful, fearful emptiness inside.
Yeah.
An inner hell people are desperate to avoid.
So they fill it with TV, work, relationships.
Anything. Constant busyness, just to avoid sitting with themselves. And if a relationship starts from that place of needing someone to fill your gap,
It's already compromised.
it's poisoned from the start. You're basically using the other person as a distraction from your own inner state. Like a human shield against your own emptiness.
But the goal isn't loneliness, it's aloneness.
Yes, aloneness is totally different. It's presented as beautiful, peaceful, joyful. It's your inner sanctuary, your temple, where your true self, your God, resides. It's inner fullness.
So someone who meditates, who finds peace within themselves, gets comfortable with aloneness.
They get acquainted with it, yes. And when connections happen from that place of inner completeness...
They aren't needy, they aren't based on fear.
Exactly. They're not poisoned. Because you're not using the other person. You're sharing your fullness.
This changes the whole dynamic then, from relationship to relating.
Precisely. Relationship, the noun feels fixed, static, maybe even dead, like a reservoir.
Whereas relating,
the verb is alive. It's a process, a continuous flow. It demands constant awareness.
and different principles.
Absolutely. Deep respect, Non-possessiveness. Giving the other person absolute freedom, even when you're deeply intimate. If you're already whole inside, you don't need to clutch or control.
Speaking of freedom, we have to touch on the source's view of the contraceptive pill. It calls it revolutionary.
The greatest revolution in history, actually.
Why such a strong statement?
Because it directly addressed the biological root of centuries of female oppression. Freedom from constant, unavoidable pregnancy.
Which was seen as the core of her economic and social dependency, her slavery, essentially.
Yes. The pill finally offered biological liberation.
And the implication is that this frees up enormous energy, creative energy.
Huge amounts. Energy that for millennia went almost exclusively into reproduction is now available for other things.
Like what?
Like pouring that creativity into the world, becoming the doctors, the engineers, the leaders that women previously could only dream their sons might become.
And bringing a different quality to those roles.
Yes, bringing that right brain strength, the intuition, the centeredness into fields often dominated by left brain thinking. The world needs that balance, the source argues.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up for you, the listener. We've journeyed from seeing relationships as potentially ego-driven politics, based on old power dynamics and fear,
to the possibility of fearless relating. Connection grounded in inner strength, in that state of aloneness.
where love isn't a bargain, it's unconditional, it's unmotivated, just flowing from that inner fullness, leading to real contentment.
And maybe, just maybe, if we connect it back,
Yeah.
the world has had enough of that hard, aggressive, purely logical man-type energy running things, right? That left brain dominance.
You mean the drive to conquer, acquire, control?
Exactly. And the source poses a kind of warning. If women's liberation just means women becoming more like that aggressive man-type simply to compete and win in the existing system,
We lose something precious.
we risk losing the softness of woman, that intuitive right brain quality which the source calls the only hope for humanity.
That really is a provocative thought to leave people with. We started by talking about the inner conflict between the left and right brain mirroring the outer conflict. So the final question for you is this. If you look at your own life, are you maybe prioritizing that left brain stuff, the calculation, the efficiency, the logic over everything else?
And in doing so, what dreams, what visions, what intuitive nudges from the right hemisphere, the things that make life feel sacred, maybe poetic, are you ignoring?
What would it take, as the source asks, to be more concerned with the poetry of life, less concerned with the arithmetic of it?
Something to really sit with, because that inner balance affects everything else.
Thank you for joining us on this really challenging deep dive today. We hope it gave you food for thought.
Explore these ideas. See where they lead you.